Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Military Mondays. If you and I don't know each other, I would love to get to know you, especially if you are currently serving or have served in any of the branches of the service or the reserves or the guard. So please reach out to me. I'd love to get to know you. If you have a business, let's connect. Go to militarymondays.info. That's militarymondays.info. Let's connect and see if maybe you are a good fit for my Military Mondays shows, and I would love to potentially highlight you. But for those of you who don't know who I am, I forgot to tell you my name. I am retired Major Brenda Sanchez, and I am the co-founder of Life's Real Currency with my husband, Michael Sanchez. And we wrote the book, Life's Real Currency, and we help businesses to acquire and retain their customers for life. So if you struggle with that, I'd love to have a conversation with you about that also. But I have an amazing woman on today that I met through networking. That seems to be a theme lately. Networking is crucial to your business. And I met Kristina through eWomen Network here in Colorado Springs. And she happened to be a guest and was sitting at my table, and I found out she was a reservist. And obviously we have a lot in common because, as you know, I served in the reserves for most of my career. And we got talking about what she does today. So I wanted to highlight her this morning on Military Mondays. So thank you so much for being on this morning, Kristina.
Thank you so much for the opportunity, Brenda. I'm very happy to be here.
Awesome. So let's start with, you're currently serving in the service as a traditional reservist. For those that are watching, know that I never did traditional reserves. I did IMA, which is Individual Mobilization Augmentee. For those of you who do not know military lingo, I will spell it out for you. It means I was a weekday instead of a weekend warrior. And Kristina is a weekend warrior. So let's talk about what it's like to be a weekend warrior. And then we'll get into what you're doing during the week.
Okay, sounds good. Talk about being a weekend warrior, or a citizen airman, as they call it. I love my weekends when I get to serve at the Air Force because I get to connect with people and friends and leaders alike. Such a diverse group. I'm very lucky to be able to serve alongside such a wide range of individual skill sets and personalities. I'm what you call a 2T2 or a port dog. So what we do is kind of, the way I describe it in kind of layman's or non-military terms is that we're sort of the Delta and the FedEx of the military airlift system. So any cargo or passengers that are moving within our logistic chain and going on an aircraft, I'm the ground personnel to help process, expedite, and track those individuals and pieces of cargo as they move in the logistic airlift system in the Air Force, and even cross into supporting the Army, the Navy, and the Marines. So it's an exciting job, a lot different from my civilian job, which I also appreciate about being a reservist because I get to drive forklifts, I get to handle hazardous materials. It's quite a switch from my day job, for sure.
Awesome. And we were talking, and you didn't serve active duty and then get into the reserves. You went straight into the reserves. So let's talk about that, because there aren't a ton of people that just go straight into the reserves. It's usually as a result of serving on active duty, and then you choose to do part-time instead of full-time.
That's right. When I first got to my squadron, and I got to give a shout out to the 302nd Airlift Wing at the 39th Aerial Port Squadron, where I've served for over 17 years, they looked at me at the tender age of 19 like I was an alien. What do you mean you didn't serve? You weren't active duty. You just came in straight reserve? I think that we find that to be a little more the case nowadays. We've got a lot younger force and a lot more, 19, 20-year-olds that are joining just straight reserve. But, I actually am a military brat. My dad retired from the Air Force, and I'll be honest, I just couldn't imagine my life without the Air Force in it in some way or another, telling me what to do, where to live, where to be. And I also really desperately tried a year of college prior to joining, and got good grades, but really needed help with tuition assistance. And so when I learned about the reserve, I thought, hey, a cool obligation, a part-time job, a cool career path, and could just do it 1 week in a month, 2 weeks a year. Of course, what someone didn't tell me is there's tons of opportunities that I took advantage of to serve in the active reserve as well. So I was able to accumulate about 7 to 8 years of active duty time as my time as a reservist. So
Awesome.
turned into a lot more than I think I initially 19-year-old me anticipated it to be.
Yeah, I'm very familiar with those active duty tours. As some of my viewers know, I accumulated over 27 years in the Air Force, 12 and a half years of active duty. So almost half, I mean, literally half of the time of a traditional active duty person, which is pretty astounding. Yeah, I served a lot of active duty tours as you did. So there's lots of opportunities. If you're a reservist and you're not familiar with that and you don't know about the opportunities that are out there, please hook up with Kristina or myself, because there are lots of opportunities to fill in if you're an IMA for active duty that's deployed, because they still got to do the stateside mission. And of course, there's always the reserve units that are deploying that need some help and some fill in because others can't deploy. So definitely reach out to one of us. So the other thing we talked about is, the Reserve Corps was built to bring a different perspective to active duty. And that's because we work outside in other careers, or maybe the same career or another career, and can bring a different perspective in. So let's talk about that, because you and I, prior to going live, we're talking about that, and I liked your perspective.
Yeah, I think the reserve, I think we're such a strong force, even more so nowadays, since, day one, of course, you meet so many people over the course of, 17 years. I've got still quite a few I want to keep going, but such a diverse group. People from other countries that have joined. We have computer technicians. Again, I always joke, we just drive forklifts and move cargo and passengers, but there are a lot of outside skill sets from civilian jobs that lend itself to the job. Computer technicians, teachers, not just on the technical side of things, but also on the people side of things. We have such great leaders and such great followers in our unit that, depending on what they're good at, I know electricians, the brainstorming, the creativity, and the innovativeness that comes out of us accomplishing our mission on the weekend, really, I think the source is what they do on the outside, what they're able to, what kind of career and what their Monday through Friday essentially looks like. I think it's wonderful because it allows us to take advantage and capitalize on getting that mission done, and really finding we're all good at certain things and, have our strengths and our weaknesses. So we're really able to pull from a large pool of individuals and skill sets. And we're a family while we do it too, really getting to know each other in a diverse group. It's a very unique family that I'm a part of.
Awesome. Well, that leads right into, you talked about doing stuff Monday through Friday and then bringing that into the weekend, your skills. So what do you do Monday through Friday?
So I recently have shifted more to a traditional reservist role. And I'll tell you, it's nice to get a little bit of time back for sure, because I've been able to focus on me. And honestly, I still every day ask myself what I want to be when I grow up. And I might always ask myself that. But I recently received an opportunity and an invite to work for a local farmers insurance agent here in town. He's just started his business about a year ago, about a year and a half. So he's fairly new. And I kind of just took a left turn and decided to work as a producer and obtain my licensing in both property and casualty insurance, and really try to learn not just alongside him, but underneath him as he's kind of crafting his agency and building his book of business, learning lots every day about unique situations for families, and assets and protection that they're looking for. And I think it's offered a really unique scope because maybe one day I'd like to own my own agency. This has been a great opportunity to explore other skill sets because, like you mentioned, insurance is a lot different than the military.
Yes, it is. So let's talk about that, because what skills have you learned in the reserves that transfer well to being, right now you're working for a farmer's agent, you're a producer, but to be able to own your own agency someday and be an independent? What type of skills do you learn in the service?
Oh goodness, I would have to say that at the top of the list is people skills and building relationships and communication skills. I think you know all about building your business is building relationships. Really, when you're able to listen and empathize and connect with people on a more human level, insurance is a financial product, but I really try to get to the core of when you listen to people, you're able to get to the core of what issues they may have, what their needs are, what their wants are, what requirements there are to accomplish the mission. Essentially, number one, people skills, and it's something that I pride myself in having those skills. I think it's really helped me over the last 8 months since I gained my licensure to sell and really be able to help a lot of people out. It's been sort of I wouldn't say a seamless transition to insurance, but it certainly behooved me, the people skills that I've learned in just working with such a diverse group of people, diverse group of skill set and different career fields. Also, I would say that, in the early days when you join and you're lower ranking and you're younger, followership really, the skills you learn in followership really lend themselves to leadership as well. I think that you're able to grasp a bigger picture a little quicker. I think that that's something that military members, whether they're transitioning to the civilian workforce or a traditional reservist like myself, are able to really hone that in. When you start to transition from a follower to a leader, you're able to see that bigger picture quicker and get the results that you're looking for and able to communicate with people about how we reach that goal together.
Awesome. Yeah, it definitely is all about relationships, and that, as you know, my book is called Life's Real Currency, Build Your Business on Relationships. So yes, we know that very well. And we knew that somewhat from the service. My husband is in a service industry also, law enforcement, but you really learn that once you get into business. You learn the hard way that it really is about relationships. So, we talked about the skills that you bring from the Air Force reserves over to being a farmer's agent. But what about the other way around? Because we talked about reservists. The whole reason why the reserve force was created was to help create an outside think tank, or that gives a different perspective instead of, as we talked about before we went live, brainwashed, if you want to call it that, because you have your procedures and you have your way of doing things in the service. And sometimes we have to look outside the box, both in the military and in your business. You need to look outside the box in order to be able to grow and to be able to transform that business. So let's talk about the other way around. What skills are you learning as an insurance agent that's helping you in your reserve job?
What a good question. Wow. For me personally, I think it's, I've been an acting first sergeant before, really kind of getting to the core of just, morale and getting to know people. And I think insurance has kind of opened my eyes a little bit. Honestly, I was only ever just a consumer of insurance before joining the farmers insurance team. And I kind of wish that maybe someone had led me to look at financial products and future investment a little earlier. And so, I don't try and necessarily pursue individuals that are lower ranking than me to sell insurance, but I certainly want them to know that I'm here as a resource. for advice. And that's really, I try to, at least I think people know that about me being there for the last 17 years. I'm approachable and that they can talk to me about that. I think if you know your resources and are able to collect individuals or organizations around you, the more you know your resources, the more likely you are to use them in a time of need. And so for me, I've really learned just another way to try and support my troops, whether that's just giving them some advice or giving them a quote if they're curious, or just, helping review their current policies. I, want people to be using their money smartly, not to over or under insure themselves. And so that's kind of, in my first year, that's kind of a big one that stands out to me as to what insurance has been able to provide me and my skill set to the military, not necessarily mission oriented, but people oriented, which has kind of always been my priority over the last 17 years.
Awesome. So you're approaching retirement. So it's right around the corner. You're probably counting the days, maybe not.
Counting the days, yes.
Yeah. I know that feeling. So what does the future look like for Kristina? Is it, obviously you just started insurance. Do you think you'll go off on your own? What is, if you're willing to share, what does Kristina's retirement life look like?
Sure. Oh, I'm so happy to share. The military's been a labor of love for sure. It's but I also believe in, life has phases and maybe there are chapters to it. And so it's made me very excited exploring the civilian world of work. In that I don't know that I'll stick with insurance forever. I have to be completely honest there. I'm learning a lot, but I think mostly, very deeply, it's inspired me to own and operate and start my own business eventually, whether that's in insurance. I believe in the military kind of preaches the pillars of resiliency, right? Like a life-work balance, spiritual, mental, physical, and social. I'm constantly working on all four of those every day. But one I think that would be extremely gratifying is to open my own business. I think that would help across a lot of pillars, to be your own boss, to kind of carve out what you want to do in this world and offer that to people. I believe in following your passions as well. I think that work-life balance is just so important. So I sing in a band here in Colorado Springs. I'm a part of a local band, so I try to keep that passion going. And, this summer's been extremely lucrative, so I'd like to always keep that going. But really, this has just lit a fire, really, in that I may want to explore entrepreneurship.
Awesome.
Self-knowledge can lead to exploring all types of careers outside of the military service. So I'm very optimistic and hopeful for my future. But again, still don't quite know what I want to be when I grow up, Brenda.
So I have a question, because you just talked about being in a band here. If somebody's here in Colorado Springs, because there's a lot of Colorado Springs or the surrounding area watchers, what band is it, so that they can look it up and go find you sometime and go listen?
Oh, I appreciate the plug. This summer has been unlike any other. Last summer, with the COVID environment, we weren't all getting out and having fun. The weather's just been so gorgeous this summer. The name of the band is called Soap Dish. Just like it sounds, a dish of soap dish. We're a cover band, mostly rock and roll. So I can promise you, if you end up finding us on Facebook, there's lots of events to attend, and we will provide a soundtrack for a fun night of dancing and definitely a little bit of relaxation as well, letting loose.
Awesome. Well, see, I learned something new, because we hadn't talked about that in our networking. So we might have to go check that out sometime.
Yes. That'd be
awesome.
Love that.
So what words of advice would you have for somebody? You're 3 years away from retirement, so you're already planning now. Probably 3 to 5 years out. What type of advice do you have for somebody that's getting ready to either separate or retire from the service?
If and this is something I'm going to start doing, because I'm getting within that 2 to 3 year time frame, is to use your resources. There are a lot of transitional programs and assistance to help you to move, whether I'm talking to active duty or reserve, to move into the civilian world, the civilian career path that you may want to pursue. Be fearless in that, whether it's following your passion or just taking a hard left and trying something new, similar to what I did with insurance. I think that hindsight will always be 2020, but if you don't take those chances, then you might not experience success or happiness as quickly as you would like to. Follow your passions, and if you are in the Air Force, get your CCAF, get your associate's degree. The Air Force is the only branch of service that offers a 2-year degree after service. And I just so strongly believe in prepping yourself and arming yourself at least with that 2-year degree before you make that transition. You'll be extremely attractive to outside employers, and really you'll be able to explore and find your own path.
Awesome. So anything that we haven't talked about that you wanted to share with the viewers today?
No, I don't think so, Brenda. I think we covered a lot there, and I could talk forever and ever, but I really appreciate the opportunity to come on, and some great questions from you as well. You've given me some things to think about, all day, maybe all week, about where I want to go and what I want to be when I grow up. And I hope that we were able to accomplish the same with our interview, but I think we covered it all.
Yeah, well, and the other thing I would encourage you, we met networking out at eWomen Network, but anybody that's watching, whether you're here in Colorado Springs or anywhere in the world, there are veteran networking groups or networking groups all over the place. And I highly encourage you, if you don't know what you're going to do, Kristina's already doing farmers insurance, but if you don't know what you're going to do, reach out to the veteran organizations. There's even a veteran chamber of commerce in a lot of cities. If you go Google veteran chamber of commerce and find out if there's one in your area, that is a great place to start networking and just start talking to business owners, whether it be to get a job or whether it be to explore owning your own business on your own. If you start networking 3 to 5 years out, you will have the foundation for starting out very solid and a really nice groundwork for a business, versus I know many people who get out and then it's like, okay, now what am I going to do when I grow up? And they don't plan ahead. So I highly encourage, go back and watch some of my Military Mondays. You'll learn about my past and my plan B and why I started early on. A plan B or a plan C, I would start those now, because there's never a better time than now, even if you're currently serving. So thank you so much for being on, Kristina. I appreciate you. I look forward to seeing you at more networking events and maybe even out listening to your band. So we might have to have a date night, my husband and I, and find out where you guys are playing.
So. I love that. Yes, that'd be fantastic. We'll sing you a song or two, but thank you again for the opportunity. It's just amazing to connect, and I look forward to the next time that I get to see you.
Awesome. If you are a traditional reservist, I highly recommend you reach out to Kristina, because she's a wealth of knowledge and can help you plug into the right programs in the reserves, or to help you make that transition out, as that's what she's doing too. And maybe you could lock arms and do it together and learn together. And if you'd like to get some advice from somebody who's been there, done that, and on the other side and owning their own business, I'd love for you to reach out and connect with me, because I'd love to have a conversation. I truly have a heart for helping veterans make that transition, because so many of them, my interview last week, he said the stat is that your first career getting out of the service usually lasts only 18 months before you're on to something else. So I'd like to see those stats change. So let's let's work together to help each other be super successful when you get out of the service. So with that, again, if you'd like to connect with me or see past episodes, go to militarymondays.info. That's militarymondays with an S.info. And I'd love to connect with you and maybe interview you on a Military Mondays. So bye, everyone. Thanks so much for coming. And I will see you next Monday on Military Mondays.
Bye.